Okay, so now we're on to stage 3 of our 5-step manifesting process. Now, I love this stage. I love it because this is where things really start to get deep. Believe it is possible. Now, I was reading a book recently and they were saying how 1% of the population has something that 99% of the population do not have. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, it's self-belief. Self-belief comes from very, very deep within us. In fact, it's the solar plexus region in the chakra system. If that area of the energetic body is blocked, that's going to cause a lack of self-esteem, self-belief, self-confidence, self-acceptance. Anything beginning with the word self comes from this region here. Now, I have had to do a lot of work on my solar plexus. Now, I wouldn't quite say that I'm in the 1% of the population just yet, but that is my aspiration. And I'll know once I get there because I will have unshakable self-belief, and that's what I would like you to have as well. So self-belief is believing that you are capable of whatever it is that you want to manifest. So going back to step 1, thinking about exactly what it is that you want. Step 2 was visualizing it, and now step 3 is, do I really believe that I could have it? Is it within my reach, or is it a far-fetched dream of mine? You might say on the surface level, oh, of course I believe it. I wouldn't even try and attempt to manifest it if I didn't. Yes, but remember I said that belief is something very deep rooted. Our beliefs are formed from as early as the time we were born. Research shows that our main beliefs are shaped between the ages of 3 and 7 years of age. Now, that doesn't mean to say our beliefs aren't formed before or after that age. It just means that the majority of our beliefs are really formed during those early years. But really and truly, it starts from the moment we're born. As soon as we're given a name, we are given an identity. So that's why we are associating our sense of identity with our name. So that's why when we have a heated argument or a discussion with somebody, they'll often call you by your name. Or if they're telling you something deeply personal, they'll often refer to your name. It's because your name is a way of really getting into their identity, and salespeople use it as well as a technique in order to be able to get people to be on their wavelength. So from the time you're born up until now, you're carrying with you a set of belief systems. And would you believe me if I said the majority of your belief systems are dated? And what I mean by that is they're no longer relevant. So they were relevant because that's why you got them. But a lot of them are no longer required. So I was talking to someone the other day, and she was an adult, a full-grown adult. She's 38 years old, and she said to me, oh, I wanted to buy a dress because I've got an event coming up, but I decided to get one a size bigger so that I could grow into it. And I was like, grow into it? What do you mean grow into it? And she goes, it's better to have it on the bigger side. And I said, well, do you actually like it bigger? Because if you're going to be, if you want me to be honest, it actually looks a bit baggy on you. I said to her, she's a close friend of mine, so it didn't matter. And she replied, not really, I don't like it baggy, but at least I can grow into it. And I was curious, and this is my NLP mind here, and unfortunately, if you're a friend of mine, you have to be coached, because that's what I do. So I decided to coach her, and I was like, what exactly do you mean by grow into it? Because I assumed that she meant if she gains weight, but she didn't mean that. She was referring to her 12-year-old self. So when she was going through her growth spurt as a teenager, her parents must have said to her, it's It's better to have clothes that are bigger because then you'll grow into them. So that's what I mean when I'm saying that some of our beliefs are dated. That was a very obvious one, which she didn't realize. And I had actually pointed it out to her. I said that if you're talking about gaining weight, then I understand. But if you're not planning to gain weight, there's not much likeliness you're going to grow anymore, because after a certain age, we stop growing, we stop getting taller even. So, you don't need that dress to be bigger. And she was like, oh, because then when somebody challenges your belief system, it's like, wow, okay, it's a little bit of a wake-up call, and then it's up to them if they choose to action it or not. But the point I'm making here is a lot of our beliefs are not our own. They're narratives that were given to us. In that example that I just gave, it was given to her by her mother or her parents. So look back into your thought patterns and your beliefs and think to yourself, what was given to me by whom? So what am I carrying right now from my parents, from my siblings, from my friends, from my peers, from my colleagues at work, from my teachers at school or university, from my boss? A lot of managers, they try to impose their own beliefs onto their employees rather than allowing space for everybody to contribute. So it's really important to, first of all, identify where did my beliefs come from? And then secondly, are my beliefs serving me well? Because some beliefs do serve us well. There are empowering beliefs and there are limiting beliefs. So let me go back to that example I just gave about an employer imposing their beliefs on their employee. So I was actually in a corporate session one day, and I was actually facilitating it for them. And I asked the employer, I said, why do you run this restaurant? It was a restaurant business. And he replied, because I believe that every guest is God. And I looked around at the other employees and they were quite blown away, because that was clearly the first time they had ever heard that employer say that. So I said, okay, you believe that every guest is God. That's why you run your restaurant business with so much, diligence and discipline, and you pay attention to detail about everything. He said, yes. And I looked around and I said, but I don't think any of your employees know that. And he said, oh, we don't talk about things like that. So that's an example of an empowering belief that that employer has that's not being passed on. So imagine if that was passed on, and actually after that day it was, and the whole approach of the business changed. And they even wrote to me a couple of months later and said that productivity had increased and people were showing up to work with a lot more like a sense of purpose, a sense of duty. And that was beautiful. That was great. And that was from that one sentence. So can you see how powerful our beliefs are? And they come out in our words, they come out in our sentences. That's why the linguistics part of NLP is vital. It's so important, because we can spot people's beliefs from the way that they speak. So if I just spend half an hour with somebody, I will be able to reveal so much about them based on the things that they say. If they make a mistake, for example, put their coat on backwards or something, they might say, oh, silly me, typical, isn't it? Just my luck. Things like that, which they think they're saying in joking, like in a passing way with humor. But actually what they're doing is revealing something about themselves. In that case, it's low self-esteem, or it could be victim mode, thinking, oh, well, look at me, I'm always making a mistake. So it's so important to get a hold of your belief system, because only when you've really been able to manage it and deal with what you've got are you able to manifest what you want, because otherwise you're manifesting from those beliefs. So imagine if you're holding a limiting belief, like, for example, oh, I should finish all the food on my plate because there are people in this world that don't have food. That's a very, very common belief. A lot of people hold this belief because they were told as children, oh, you mustn't waste food on your plate. It's really important you finish it. So then they force themselves to finish it. So if they're holding that belief, which is based on lack and scarcity and fear, how are they going to manifest something in abundance? It's just not possible, is it? Because there's a deep-rooted fear in the mind that there's not enough in the world. In this case, it's in the world. There's people in poorer countries that don't have food to eat, therefore I must finish the food on my plate. It sounds like a really good thing to pass on to your children, doesn't it? It sounds like you're teaching them about the importance of things and how they should cherish, everything that they have and be appreciative of their homes and their food, etc. But what it's doing is creating fear, scarcity and lack in the mind, and manifestation can't happen from that. Well, it can, but then that's all you manifest back, because we know by now that we're manifesting on the level, the vibrational level that we are at. So whatever I believe about myself and whatever I believe about the world around me is what I'm attracting back. So whatever's happening in my internal world is reflecting back on me in my external world. So if there's a consistent pattern in my relationships, for example, I must eventually get to a point where I look and think, oh, okay, I've been with so many different partners, and actually the pattern has been the same. Perhaps I'm manifesting that pattern. And why am I manifesting it? Obviously, nobody would want to manifest a negative pattern, but we're doing so because we are operating from that pattern. So one of my clients, she's single, and this is exactly what happened to her. She was saying to me, Nikita, I'm really struggling to find a partner. Everybody I meet has X, Y, and Z, which I don't like, which don't align with me. And so I looked at her and I said, well, don't you have X, Y, and Z? And she was like, no, of course I don't. Initially it was denial. But then actually, once we pulled everything apart, we realized that she did have X, Y, and Z in her. So because she had it in her, she was then attracting that to her. So she was meeting people that were like her, but she couldn't recognize that they were like her. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we always attract people that are like us. It means to say that whatever pattern is going on in our mind, that brings us to this frequency, and that's the frequency that we are working with. That's where we're operating from. So if we want to change the things that we have in our life, or the things that we can get in our lives, we need to start with ourselves. That's why so many sayings, it all starts with you. Look at the man in the mirror. Like, all of those sayings are there for a reason. It starts with me. What can I change about myself? And then I'm in a position to request the universe to give me something that matches. So I hope that's helped with regards to belief. Belief is a very, very deep topic. I mean, we could really and truly talk about it for a lot longer, but I don't want to overwhelm you because there's quite a lot in what I've just said. I do suggest that you watch this video back. In fact, I suggest that you watch all of the videos back. The reason being because sometimes when we watch something for the second, third or fourth time, we hear it differently. Like if you watch a film, for example, if you see the same film again and then again, you see things that you didn't necessarily see or pick up on in the first time. You might notice what somebody's wearing or the tone in which they're saying it. So knowledge and wisdom is the same. It's really important that it gets reaffirmed, because what we really want is to not just understand this on a theoretical level, but we want to embody it. That's what's more important. People go to all these personal development seminars and they watch all these things online, but actually what they're doing is just theoretically knowing it. they're not necessarily implementing it and living it. And that's really, really key. And that's what makes people stand out and in their field when they become masters. The word master basically means somebody who is living what they're teaching. So I make every effort to ensure that whatever I'm passing on, I'm saying from a space of lived experience. I have no textbook in front of me right now. I have no script. That doesn't mean to say that I haven't studied. Of course I have. But a lot of it flows through me intuitively. That's why sometimes when I speak, I may stumble, or I may, get the words out wrong or muddle them up. And that's okay. It doesn't matter, because it's flowing through me. Whatever I'm saying is genuinely authentic, it's sincere, it's based on what I have learned in my own life, and I genuinely want to pass on to you. So I really hope that was helpful. I'd love to hear your comments. Please do share the feedback with me. It's so important, because I would like to know what you're taking away from each session. And if I don't hear anything, I really don't know. So it's important to reach out and communicate and have that kind of openness. There's still 2 more stages to this process. Now, I said in the beginning, I don't want to just rush through them. I don't want you to just consecutively watch these videos just for the sake of finishing this course. I want you to really embody these steps, because if you embody each step, you can potentially manifest anything. And I mean anything. Your dream house, your dream partner, your dream lifestyle, or it doesn't even have to be something tangible. It could be a feeling, it could be a state, it could be a quality. Somebody said to me the other day, I want to manifest freedom. I love that. I love that, because most people, when we talk about manifestation, they choose something that, is tangible, like a house or a car or a partner. But this was, I want to manifest freedom. And I love that. It's a state. Freedom is a beautiful state. So that's when I, really dived into that with her. And I said, well, what does freedom mean to you? And then we got her to visualize it. And then we got her to believe it was possible. And then the other 2 steps, which will follow. Please feel free to make notes as you're going along and watching this. But more than making notes, it's important to really listen, to watch, to learn, to understand, and like I said, to embody. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the remaining 2 videos. Namaste.